Let's explore the proc file system, the virtual file system a little bit. And I'll try to hammer home the point that these files are virtual, and the fact that these are just entries, these are not files on the real disk. That is very, very important. So first off, let's just go ahead and list things within the slash proc, right? And as you can see, there are many things right here. What we intend to do was add another entry somewhere here by the kind of name pajama, let's say driver, right? So somewhere within this ls system, or like listings of the files within this directory, we want to add this entry, and that's what we'll do once we start to code again. um, all right. So what we have here are these various files, right? And these various files essentially, and there are also directories, by the way, right? So there are, drivers. Well, that's one of the files that I know. Then there or directories that I know of, IRQ, file system, dynamic debug, and so on and so forth. Everything in white is kind of a file, right? So the first thing that I want to show you is that in the current directory that we are in, there are these two files, right? And if I were to do file star, for example, I get information about what these files are, right? What kind of files are these? So the make file, for example, is a make file script, and it's an ASCII text. ldd.c is C source and also ASCII text. The question now is, what are the files within the proc file system, right? So I'm just going to then go ahead and do file slash proc, and let me, I don't know, which one should I pick? Yeah, I'll just pick uptime, right? Or actually, let me go within drivers and then pick RTC, right? So what kind of file is RTC? Well, it's empty, right? There's nothing there. It doesn't specify what kind of file it is, right? It's not printing whether it's ASCII text or what is it. And the reason to this is this file actually has nothing right now. It only responds the moment I go ahead and kind of try and read it. So the moment I read it, we see that there it kind of prints so much of information, right? It's printing what's the time, then the date, and so on and so forth, all sorts of details, right? So one thing, hopefully, that has been hammered home so far is that when we kind of do a read on this file, right? When we do a read on this file, there is some driver, potentially the RTC driver, that catches this read, and then there is like proc read, uh, system call, and whatever the proc ops that were available or registered within the RTC driver by the RTC driver author, that API is getting called, and that API is the one which is dynamically printing this, right? It's not saved anywhere on the file system, that is. This is not a real file. It's a virtual file, but we can read and write to it. We can perform file operations on it. And so when we try to inquire what kind of file this is, it says it's empty. But when we try and read, it's actually not empty. In the sense, there was nothing in that file because it was a virtual file. Reading that file triggered the driver to go ahead and print this information, right? So this is very, very important, that the proc file system is kind of a view into the state of the kernel, and all the entries there are virtual. None of them are actual files on the disk. That is absolutely very, very, very crucial. And now one other thing that I want to show you, just the um, last thing, so to speak. We are going to do ls mod, and let's find out if there was an RTC driver. Somewhere there should be an RTC driver, which I am not seeing right now. Um, hmm. Well, I should have tried this before demoing, but I did not. And turns out that there is no RTC driver. So there, well, the driver is not by the name RTC, but whatever that driver is, whichever that driver is monitoring the slash proc slash driver slash RTC file, right? And it has to be one of these files, these drivers, and I don't know which one, right? Or it could just as well be that the kernel is keeping, right, monitoring that file and printing that information dynamically. Anywho, so hopefully you're convinced as to proc is a virtual file system. The files don't exist on real disk, but reading and writing to it can lead to interesting prints, and the driver dynamically prints that information. That is the key. And with this, we'll now dive into, writing some code that relates to adding an entry into the proc system. I have trouble closing the video. Let me just stop recording. Bye bye.